chicken. I'm your guy.
Blinking.
I'll have what Joseph's has.
Look, somebody's talking about you.
This is what we call the voice of God.
Popping.
Everybody just gets to focus on you.
Grab me.
Probably not the best thing for an introvert.
I'm asking for you.
Well, I like a good chicken sandwich.
Touch me. Hi, David. Comment.
Oh my God.
Like.
You're actually an identical twin.
Push.
Maybe I'll just ask Julie to talk about what it is to be
No.
an identical twin.
Pick me up.
No, you didn't.
Shouting.
Surprise! Jeremiah, just hang on a second. I just got a text.
There's an edit for your new opening, Joseph.
I feel really honored to have been here, man.
But by the way, you've done a masterful job. Seriously.
It was such a joy.
Thanks, Joseph. It's an honor.
Good on you. This was a pleasure.
I mean, you are the prime example of how to pivot in this new environment.
I wish everybody gets an opportunity to interact with Joseph Jaffe and Corona TV.
Who needs Cameo when I've got my own personal Cameo? I am still excited. I am still, hello everybody. I am still, on a high after that incredible conversation with Jamal Mashburn on Friday. And, the best part of it was the fact that you might have thought it was about basketball. You might have thought it was about sport. You might have thought that it would have been about him transitioning into becoming a successful business man, but it was really just about humanity, and it was just about being a parent. And I just, the man is a philosopher, and I'm so humbled to have had the opportunity to have met him. Well, but today we are going to be talking a lot about sport. Mark Masters is here, and he says, here we go with the Bale buzz. Yeah, because Gareth Bale is back at Spurs. And I couldn't be happier as a Spurs fan. I know that I'm still in store for just tremendous continued pain and suffering. What's that quote that we hear a lot on Corona TV? Pain is inevitable, suffering is a choice. Not if you're a Spurs fan. Pain and suffering are inevitable. There's no choice. The choice is ultimately and generally because your father was a Spurs fan or something like that. And my father wasn't even a Spurs fan, As you guys know, he passed away when I was 4 years old, but somehow I made the wrong choice and chose to become a Spurs fan, but whatever. We'll get back to that. But I just want to take a moment to be a little bit serious. Today is Pause the World Day. It is a day when the world needs to take a pause. We all need sometimes to slow down, to pause, to reflect, to introspect, and no more so, I think, than a day like today, where there's a lot going on in the world, no doubt, and I just want to take a moment to call out one person in particular, and that is the memory, the legacy of Justice Ruth Bader Ginsburg, who died appropriately on the eve of the Jewish New Year, Rosh Hashanah, and everything that she stood for and everything that she achieved, and the legacy that she lived and leaves is something that will stay with us forever. It was very interesting for me because when I sat down with Jamal on Friday, he spoke about the metric that mattered to him. It was minutes played, right? And then it prompted me to say, forget about, Powerball or Moneyball. I called it Jamal Ball, that's the metric that actually counts, minutes played. And I think when it came to minutes played, there was no one better than Justice Ginsburg. May her memory be a blessing, and may she truly rest in peace. Well, now we're going to talk and do a little bit of a transition and talk about our guest this week. Working backwards, Bob Leodis from the ANA on Friday, Kuda Biza on Thursday, John Battelle on Wednesday, Tamsin Webster, and talking about the red thread tomorrow. But today, I'm sitting down with Ross Bernstein. Ross has written just under 50, count them, 50 books on sports. On sports marketing, on sports management, on leadership. He may have actually crossed over that 50 book threshold from the time that I actually read this or even wrote this. He is an inspiring global business speaker, and he will be sharing with us lessons, life lessons, lessons from the greatest, and also introduce us to the Champions Code, not the Champions League, but the Champions Code, and that is coming soon. Well, let's just quickly get into birthdays. And there are a whole bunch of them because obviously we had birthdays over the weekend. You will notice a few little things, certain names that have been underlined. Why did I underline them? I underlined them because this morning I just tried something different, which is instead of posting or pasting and saying, hey, you got a shout out on Corona TV, I said, you're getting a shout out. And these are the people that actually responded immediately. So I wanted to make sure that I acknowledge them just a little bit more customization and personalization for you guys. And obviously I know many people there like Sarah Fay and Rex Briggs and Sally Hogshead and Howard Greenstein. But Boyd Neal, special shout out to you over the weekend. Today on Facebook, happy birthday to you guys. And then LinkedIn, of course, over the weekend. John Everest, Thomas, Roman, Nicholas, Catherine Balboa. Those are the people that, responded to me already. So I just wanted to give you a little bit of an extra push, as well as Bob, Leland, and Stephen as well. Well, before we get into the seated soliloquy, it is Fat Blogging Day. And it is the day, for those of you that are new to the show, when I share my weight. You can run, but you can't hide when you are going through what I call weight loss by community. And I'm happy to tell you, just after the Jewish festival of New Year, Rosh Hashanah, I am stable. I am 183.3 this morning, and I was 183.3 last week. I have no idea how or why or how this is possible, but I am going to take it all the way to the fridge. I'm in the bank. So we'll see how I am next week. Well, now let's get into the seated soliloquy. And the seated soliloquy is about something that my guest today, Ross Bernstein, talks a lot about and is really a bit of a specialist in. And that is the concept of momentum. So what is momentum and specifically as it relates to sport? I have to tell you that I am personally fascinated by the subject of momentum in sport. Fortunately, but not coincidentally for me, obviously my guest today specializes not just in that, but how great athletes and sports teams create and sustain it. So today in the soliloquy, I want to highlight a particular scenario in team sports that fascinates me. I'm talking about the first 2 to 3 games in a regular season. Now, for the most part, teams are going to perform as you might expect. The better teams will start off strong, and the weaker teams will similarly fall off the pace pretty quickly. But then there are the anomalies, the favorites who, for whatever reason, lose the first couple of games, maybe due to some bad luck or blown calls from the referee. Why is it that they never seem to rebound in a flash? Or even more fascinating, the underdogs who, for the same but opposite reasons, let's say from capitalizing on some good luck or taking advantage of an umpire or a referee mistake, or maybe just having a rare inspired performance, they seem to have the wind in their sails for the entire season and continue to prove everyone, including themselves, wrong. Momentum and confidence are joined at the hip. On the logical surface, coaches teach their players to take every game as it comes, that the cream always rises to the top, that it's easy to shake off a couple of bad results. The only thing is that there is some deep psychology in play here. We're talking about human beings that don't always respond to logic. Adversity seems to expose our fragilities and topple even the mightiest of giants, whereas on the flip side, the underdog or David emerges and was born to play this role and rise to the occasion. I wonder how we might be able to leverage this thinking during the times of COVID, but equally in life in order to build our own coping and performance mechanism that can successfully navigate the bumps in the road, simultaneously leverage the legitimate chances, shortcuts, and opportunities along the way, and to create the kind of sustainable momentum that reveals true champions and personal championships along the way. And I'm sure that my guest today, Mr. Ross Bernstein, can tell us a thing or two about that. Well, let's get into a bit about Ross and a brief introduction. In fact, I got to tell you, instead of reading an elaborate bio, the thing that attracted me to Ross was on his website, something that's called My Why. And I thought I would read a little bit of that to you. I love sports. It's my passion, always has been. As a fan, I love going to games, watching games, and being a part of the action. As a journalist, I love studying great coaches and inspirational athletes and trying to figure out just what it is that makes the great ones great. Sport is a universal language. There's so much we can learn from it that we can apply directly to sales, to leadership, to customer experience, to building relationships, to life. It's not just about winning, though. It's about following your moral compass to win the right way with integrity and respect. That's what the Champions Code is really all about. And just before I bring him on, I figured, let me show you just one more thing.
Sports writer Ross Bernstein is the author of The Code.
The Last Gladiators is based on a book called The Code.
You just write these great sports books all the time.
I love Brett Favre. And then, of course...
What is this, the 600th, 700th book you've written?
Get a big stocking, stuff them in there.
No, stop, really.
Well, you've done 50 books.
Sports author Ross Bernstein says there's always been an expectation.
The player breaks these codes. He's not going to be long for the team.
He's the author of almost 50 sports books, including Wearing the C, Leadership Secrets.
Wayne Gretzky's let's make a full disclosure.
As if you weren't busy enough writing this book.
Leadership Secrets of Hockey's Greatest Captains.
He is amazing.
Ross was by far the best big we've had.
He knocked it out of the park. It was fantastic.
And he blows everything out of the water. Every speaker I've ever seen, and the comedians too.
High energy, loved him.
He was so high energy, so enthusiastic, and very, very real. Truly inspired.
It was incredible.
Performance, his message he was delivering was the best I've ever seen.
How about that?
What an intro.
I mean, da 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 da. Hey, da 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 da. I mean, sport just makes me so excited and happy. So, and you've been at the edge. I mean, we'll get there. But I'm so curious to pick your brain and find out about these best practices, these lessons, these inspirations. But welcome to the show, Ross.
Thank you, Joseph. I'm honored to be here. Thank you very much.
So you've written, well, first of all, have you actually passed the milestone now? Have you hit your 50th book yet?
I have not. I guess if you include all the other books, I've had several books that I've written, published, but never even came out for different disastrous reasons. So if you include all those, I suppose, but I just say about 50, so that's close enough.
Yeah, I think I'm going to start off by saying Joseph Jaffe has written about 50, give or take 45. No, but I mean, it's amazing. And we'll touch on a few of them today in particular. But I just wanted to see who is here today. Well, Mr. Tom Morris, of course, is here, and he's referring to the Pause the World idea. Yeah, but you know what I think about when I see trying to put life on a remote control is that movie. I think, what was it called? Click. Do you remember? There was a movie with Adam Sandler? I watched it on a plane for some reason, Ross, and I just remember, because I was traveling so much. You can identify as someone who travels this whole idea of our life passing us by. And and this magic remote control fast forwarding through all the fights and the bad times, and then realizing that we haven't, we've missed our children growing up. And I remember crying like a baby on that plane trip. I mean, it was almost like a scene from the movie Airplane. People were lining up with guns and bats and trying to snap me out of it. But anyway, let's not fast forward it all. Let's just take it all in and let's enjoy it while we can. So I want people to get to know the real Ross Bernstein, and so we're going to begin by going through a couple of fun facts about you. And I have to say, you know, times are very tough and things are very serious. But you know, nothing could be more serious than finding out this about you. And I mean, I can't believe that I actually managed to find this photo of you. Apparently, you used to be a large, smelly rodent. And you said you would explain, so please do.
Well, my claim, and I like that. That's a small rodent, but I used to be a large rodent. If you pan out a little bit, I go back to the main screen. I can show you something right there, right there. That is my rodent head. I was a walk-on to play hockey at the University of Minnesota. And I lasted about 10 minutes and I got cut and I wound up becoming the team mascot, Goldie the Gopher. So I indeed was a large, smelly rodent. That was my first foray into sports. They said, you're not good enough to play hockey, but you can be our cheerleader to entertain all the drunk fans. And I said, I'll take it. And that's my claim to fame. I wound up launching my first book and I made a career out of it. So it was kind of a butterfly moment for me.
Well, that's unbelievable. So what was the connection? So what was the first book called?
It was called Gopher Hockey by the Hockey Gopher. I had hockey in Minnesota where I live. It's freezing cold, and you know, it's our thing. It's like Indiana basketball, Texas football, rugby in New Zealand or South Africa. You know, it's our thing. So we. Hockey's a big deal here, and I wanted to play at a high level. I wasn't good enough, but I wound up becoming the mascot and having fun, and I got in a lot of trouble as a mischievous rodent. And a publisher had actually approached me and wanted to write it. He told me he wanted to write a book about all the trouble I'd gotten into. And I thought, you know, other than my grandmother, I don't know who's going to want to read this, but it kind of spawned the idea. So I begged my parents to let me use my graduate school money. I had 2 older brothers that had gone on to get Ivy League MBAs, and this is what they wanted me to do. And I said, I want to use my money to write and publish a book about the history of Gopher hockey from Goldie the Gopher's perspective. And I remember the words failure and disappointment, just a lot of 4-letter words. But I said, this is my passion. I want to work in sports. And I wound up leveraging all that money, publishing this book. It became a regional bestseller. I think we did 5 printings, and it launched me on my way to become a full-time sports author. So it's kind of one of my, you know, make lemonade out of lemons moments, I guess.
That's just unbelievable how, you know, your entire career can be traced back to you know, from the sublime to the ridiculous. But in this case, it was more the surreal. Right. And so you must be happy about the fact that, you know, Jamal Jr. is playing for the University of Minnesota. I found out I did not even know that they were that all your teams were called the Gophers, or that your college was called the Gophers until Friday. So how about a Friday, Monday Gopher? Go figure. I mean, you know,
the mini Monster Mash. Yeah, we're excited to have him. That's great.
Yeah, and I'm sure, you know, with Jamal in his corner, he's going to be getting just the right amount of advice the right way, because, you know, Jamal had a very specific way that he coached or that he gave advice to his son, which I thought was incredible. You would think overbearing, right? You would think, you know, the kid is growing up in his dad's shadow, but couldn't be more different. So that was an amazing conversation. All right. So something else about you that I thought was that is amazing to me. Another thing that I covered that I'm jealous of. You know, normally my guests don't bring out all these negative emotions in me, but you have actually keynoted in all or on all 7 continents. And notice it's the same rodent face for some reason. But
those are good. I like it.
I had to actually go and just confirm that the 7th continent it's Antarctica, right?
That's right. That's right.
So tell me about that continent.
Well, I will tell you one thing. if you ever get a chance to go, be wary of the penguin poop. There's so much penguin poop there. I can't even. I can still feel it in my pores. We spent a day on Shackleton's Island, which was pretty cool. And there are like 1 million penguins living on this tiny little island. And the smell was so overwhelming. I don't know how they lived there for like 2 years, but yeah, this was a cool thing. It was, when I talk about Simon Sinek's The Why, for me, my real passion is traveling. And, I've been able to bring my wife and daughter with me all over the world. And that's really something we really love to do. And we had a chance last year I had a couple speaking engagements in South America. So we wound up being able to turn that into an event where we were able to fly to Antarctica, and then we were able to boat back through the Drake Passage, which is a pretty gnarly stretch of water, and
wow,
a lot of heaving on that. But if you really want to see the stuff up close, you've got to be able to, be in a boat coming back. So my audience was the cast and crew of a research vessel that we were on, which is pretty extraordinary. And it's just a differentiator. It was something that I wanted to do. It was kind of a bucket list thing, and to be able to differentiate yourself in a sea of many, I can say I'm one of the only speakers on the planet that's actually spoken at events on all 7 continents. So it's something I'm kind of proud of, and it's very fun.
It's unbelievable. And also, more importantly, I've just been alerted that penguin poop is trending on Twitter. So that's amazing too.
That's great.
Go figure. I've spoken in just under 50 countries, and I also love, one of the things from my perspective is I like to say that I collect runs. So being able to go for a jog or a run in an unusual city or an unusual location, like in Buenos Aires, running, like past the cemetery where Evita Peron is buried, and it's something that always stays with me, and I always try and just immortalize not just the run, but like while I'm running, thinking about that moment and how lucky and fortunate I am.
I love that. I absolutely connect with you. I go with my wife and daughter. The greatest way to see a city is to run it. So we'll, I absolutely connect with that. That is awesome. Yeah, you're a world-class speaker in your own right. In 50 countries is pretty amazing. And to see it in a run is really special. I love that.
But I like, going back to your Antarctica experience, there was something that transcended just a paying gig, right? There was something that just transcended this idea of I'm going there because it was like, now you have this bragging right, but it's not really a bragging right as much as it is a badge, an accomplishment. It's almost like, I remember last year, in fact, ironically, it's how I connected with, or how I even got to know our mutual friend, Bruce Turkel. We were both, he didn't know this, and nor did I, but we were both up for the same gig in Lima, in Peru. He got it, I didn't. And I actually asked, the host, who actually got the gig, because I was just curious to learn, who I lost out to. And, little did I know that it would actually bring me together with Bruce and bring us together. And it just shows you, like, it's a different way to think about competition.
No, yeah.
But I even bring it up because, like, I just wanted to go there because I wanted to go to Machu Picchu.
Yeah. I had a gig there. Yeah. 2 years ago, I had an event there, and Machu Picchu is beautiful. So I highly recommend it if you can get a chance to. It's an amazing place. I think Antarctica was special because everyone who was there, everyone had a bucket list thing to do. There were people spreading ashes, right? There were people, one guy had a golf club. He wanted to hit a ball on every continent. For everyone I think there were 70 people on it was like a mini cruise ship, I guess you could call it, like a research vessel. But everyone there, it was their 7th continent, for sure. I mean, it was an absolute thing to cross off the list, and they wanted to do something special while they were there. And obviously you travel the world, and there's places, that's what's been so hard, I think, about coronavirus is I haven't been on a plane since March 17th. I'll be getting on one in a few weeks. I'm very excited about it, but I miss traveling. I miss, that connection with people. And, but I can also say, like you, this silver lining gift of time has really been a gift. And like you, I've been trying to use it to get healthy. So I'm down about 50 pounds since then. And
wow. Wait, you've lost 50 pounds this year?
Yeah, since March. And then I ran a marathon actually just last week. I had to go to South Dakota to do it because they're the only place in. In fact, I'm wearing my my race swag here. But it was my 9th marathon. I've run others, but I hadn't run one in about 10 years, and I'd kind of gotten out of shape because, like you, I live in airplanes. I speak at 120 conferences a year, and I'm gone all the time, and it's just hard to be healthy when you're traveling nonstop.
Mm-hmm.
It's not an excuse. It's just hard. So for me, even though business is going to be way down this year, it was absolutely a gift to get this time and to use it in a way that was productive. So I'm kudos to you for getting back into shape, and to, that's just such a, we'll look back at this and it'll definitely be 2020 is a shit show any way you look at it, up and down, sideways. But for those of us who chose to do something productive in it, I think that's the silver lining.
I have to ask you one quick follow-up question about that marathon. So this wasn't a virtual marathon how many people ran, and did you wear masks? How did it work logistically?
Well, South Dakota has no rules. They had sturgeon. The South Dakota State Fair is going on right now. There's you go into a restaurant, there's no masks. Gas station, it's wild. It's like a whole other frontier. But I signed up for 3 other marathons that all went virtual, and I'm like, well, that's stupid. I'm not going to run in my backyard. So I got into this one. Luckily, it was someone backed out, but they had 150 runners. So that was it. And you wore a mask at the starting line and at the finish line, and then obviously you were plenty social distanced along the way. So, and they had a 20-minute starting stagger time, so people were just going off at different times. But I was grateful that I was able to do it because I wanted to,
Well, at least there were some rules, because I think one of the things we're going to talk about shortly is the importance of rules. And following those rules. Just very quickly, a couple of previous guests are saying hi. There's Dean Allen in South Africa, and he's pretty happy because of the ice hockey mention. And Ryan Campbell saying g'day, Joe. I don't know how that was in terms of my Australian, but it's a Southern Hemisphere thing. So before we get into the meat of today, I would be remiss as a sport-loving South African if I didn't, based on your travels, ask you to very, very impartially and objectively determine which sport. This isn't this or that, right? Cricket or baseball.
Well, I'm a baseball guy. I played all through high school, a little bit of town ball, but I'll tell you what, I did get to go to my first cricket match at the Melbourne Cricket Grounds in Australia. Saw the statue of Sir Donald Bradman, and it was pretty cool. I'll be honest, I had absolutely no idea what the hell was going on. I watched about 10 hours of YouTube videos to try and figure it out. And we Americans were pretty stupid, so we could, but I tell you what, it was awesome. So I'm a fan of cricket, but of a baseball fan a little more, but not much.
Yeah, I was born into cricket, but I have to tell you, as a Yankees fan myself, this is the one easy transition for me, I should say, because there are similarities between the two. And I would actually, I'm sorry for my South African friends. I'm going to go with baseball in this one. Here's one which I'm a little bit more biased on. And as you can see, I've decided to make sure that it's not even a fair competition. Football, American football, or rugby.
And as I recall, you mentioning you were at this particular match in 1995, correct? This is the
yes, I was there. Yeah.
Yeah, and the Webb Alice, is that?
That's the Webb Ellis Trophy. And by the way, I've also seen license plate guy at a Giants game. So, there you go.
Well,
Nelson Mandela, license plate guy.
I did get to learn about rugby, and in fact, I've got in my swag here, I got to get my fingers. There's a 2011 rugby ball from the World Cup. I did get to learn it when I was in South Africa, in Cape Town. I got to learn about Brian Habana and the Beast and the Duplessis brothers, and it was just such
nice.
The pomp and the circumstance and the rivalry with the All Blacks, and it was just awesome. So I'm a football fan, but I'm an emerging rugby fan. I wish I would have played. I would have loved it. It's a perfect hybrid of football and hockey, where you could beat the shit out of people, but still, it's what a beautiful game. But I'm not a Giants fan. They've beaten my Vikings too many times, so I can't go there. Sorry.
Well, I tell you one place we are going to go, because we're going to talk about your storied, incredible journey, and it's you're just getting started. Seemingly, you've still got another 50 books in you. The experiences you must have picked up along the way, the conversations, the learnings, the insights. And I think let's start off with this, and I'll use some of your books as backdrops. Wearing the Sea. Even for an ignorant, uninitiated South African, would have to be the great one, Wayne Gretzky.
Yeah.
So talk about what it means to wear the sea.
Well, it's to be the captain, especially in a sport like hockey where it's so meaningful. Other sports, they call it a paper sea because it's just on paper. It doesn't mean much. It's more of a symbolism that they let you be the captain. But in hockey, it's voted on by your peers. They have responsibilities. It's a big deal. So that was a really cool book to be able. And Gretzky, I mean, for me, I had a full-blown stage 5 man crush on that guy as a kid. I mean, in my backyard, I was Wayne Gretzky, and I've gotten to know him later in life. He's written forwards for a couple of my books. Couldn't be nicer. But during my program, when I talk about Wayne and I talk about his DNA and the Champions Code, I talk about how he loved giving, about how he felt like the assist was so much more powerful than the goal, and how a goal made one guy happy, but an assist made 2 guys happy, and how just Wayne was such a giver, and he understood it was his job as the leader was to simply make everyone else better. And I just love that. And the things that apply to business are just profound. So to wear the sea in hockey, it's a big deal. But I also talk about a lot of other guys who didn't get to wear the sea, but maybe they were veterans, clubhouse guys, as we call them. And, they wore the sea in practice. They wore the sea on road trips. And that's what great teams have, is this mixing bowl of characters and egos and personalities, but you need your leaders to really rise up and help people. And I love studying that. So it was a really fascinating book, and I've since turned it into a keynote. So I'm at a lot of leadership conferences where I'm able to really share great wisdom of great coaches and great captains from all different sports, and just how they create buy-in and how they're able to connect with the young Gen Z, or communicate with an old crotchety boomer, or apply that to wonderful customer experience for, a difficult foreign customer, or what have you. So it's fascinating.
I, like so many people, if you had to say Wayne Gretzky quotes, the ultimate one is, I never skated to where the puck was. I skated to where the puck was going, or where the puck was going to be. Incredible quote about anticipation, about vision, about understanding cause, effect. And then you've just come up with and shared this insight, which, and I was looking at it as well in one of your videos, and I just loved the idea of loving and coveting and enjoying the assist versus the actual glory of the goal. And specifically because two people win versus one, and it was funny this weekend, being a Spurs fan, our captain wearing the C, Harry Kane, scored one and set up three. And Mourinho, the coach, walked into the dressing room and said, "Man of the match is Harry Kane." And Son, who had scored four goals, because it was a five. I'm sorry, Kane set up 4 goals. I think he set up all 4 of Son's goals and scored one. But it was the act of the assist that got the coach's attention, and the scorer of 4 agreed.
Yeah, I love that. I mean, I share a story in my program about my daughter scoring her first hat trick in soccer, and also having an assist. And I told her I was most proud of the assist, and she wanted to know why. And I said, because great passes come from the heart. She could have scored that goal, but she wanted to help her teammate who hadn't scored in 3 seasons. So she passed across to her and she scored. And that act of helping to build someone's confidence is massive. And, that's where, you bring this full circle now to politics, to the world we're living in right now. Is you just wish more people had more empathy, more compassion, more wanting to do good, to help people and to help them. And I think when you finally get that, you have that aha moment. It's really wonderful. Like, even now you're reaching out, interviewing me, helping me. And I'm so appreciative of that. And I love being around givers, not takers. And it's learned, but I think it's in your DNA to want to do that. So good on you, Joseph. For
I have to tell you something I've learned throughout this process, how to take a compliment, because I would, you can see I'm squirming already a little bit. But what I've learned is the ability to say thank you, and then to turn it completely back on my guest, because what you said to me about 4 seconds before I hit the go live button was, what can I do for you and your audience? What would you like me to do? And I just, it's funny, when you've done 120 of these interviews, things that are different stand out. It's amazing. Which is not to say that 119 people would have said the same thing and it would have been bad. But when someone does something different is awesome. It was actually a little thing that came from also these learnings, Ross, which is, I'm never ever going to say to someone again in an environment, in a Q&A environment, that's a great question, because it's a bit patronizing as well, and it intimidates the people around. That's not even my insight. That came from Warren Berger, who wrote the Book of Questions, the beautiful Book of Questions. What I am going to say now is, I've never been asked that question before. So it's that which is different that gets me now, excited and energized. So I think you're doing enough for my audience by just being here. So thank you for that.
Thank you.
Now we're going to segue to another book, and again, based on a very personal moment in your life. I love and I hate this book, and you know exactly which one I'm talking about. How can you love and hate a book at the same time? What book am I referring to, Ross?
So I guess I could show you, right? So I love Brett Favre. I hate Brett Favre. I'm assuming that's the one you're talking about.
That is exactly the one I'm referring to. Talk a little bit about writing the book and just this unbelievably unique, creative take, and then of course the surprising thing that happened as a result.
Well, so I'm a diehard Minnesota Vikings fan. I'm a homer, as you can see from my worldwide headquarters, or as my mother likes to say, my basement. There's my let's see, I've got a Vikings like my Vikings there. I mean, I've got pennants, and there's the other walls are covered with Vikings swag, and we've suffered. I've lost 4 Super Bowls. My team stinks. We're 0-2. We have no momentum. We're horrible. I wake up every Monday morning with a purple hangover, as my wife likes to call it, where I'm just angry and bitter at the world because my Vikings stink so bad. But I hate the Green Bay Packers. I'm sorry. They're just awful people. They've been beating my Vikings for decades. They're not, they feel no remorse. So when Brett Favre, or as I call him, Brent Favre, decided he wanted to come to my Minnesota Vikings after 16 seasons with these filthy cheeseheads, it felt very dirty. So I was conflicted. So he took a risk, so I took a risk, and I wrote this book, and I didn't know if I'd be richer in prison, but when the announcers on Monday Night Football started flipping it, as you saw in the promo video, it went viral. So the book went nuts. It just couldn't print them fast enough. But the life lesson that I use from this whole thing in my presentation when I'm talking is about taking risks and how I took a risk and I was rewarded. But I took another risk when the next year, and I parlayed that into a sequel called I Love Sarah Palin, I Hate Sarah Palin. And this was a disaster. But I mean, Walmart thought it was a good idea, and they were going to put it in all their cash registers during the election, and it was going to be this huge thing. But once she decided she wasn't running for president, it was a total failure. I printed all the books, and they had to be burned. It was a dumpster fire, literally. But I learned about the power of failure and about taking risks and about when you fail, you got to perform the autopsy, and you got to say why, and you got to fail fast. And if you read every bio, I mean, you've interviewed some amazing people. The most successful people have failed the most. So there's a lot of life lessons in that one. It's a painful, expensive one, but it was powerful. And so how it is. We're professional speakers. So when we have failures, it just means great. It's one more new thing I get to talk about, right?
Well, you said a bunch of things there that I thought were really fascinating. And let's start off with this idea you've got to perform the autopsy. And I have kind of, I guess, 2 little follow-up questions. One is, should you perform, maybe it's not an autopsy, but some kind of a post-mortem on successes as well? Or is that kind of what we tend to do, right? Which is we analyze and spend time on how great we are and all our achievements, but then we just kind of run away from these failures because of the stain or the embarrassment or this feeling of weakness.
That's very insightful. Sometimes we win. We think, well, of course, we're great. And when we lose, there was an outlier there or something, right? But yeah, I think perform the autopsy, to do that sort of post-mortem, as you said, is really key for the good and the bad. That's the thing with sports. I talk a lot about consistency, and it's really about managing failure. Every play they fail. When there's a good play, it's a rare occurrence. The old saying in baseball: what happens when you fail 70% of the time? Well, you make the Hall of Fame. So it's about having a real short memory and just blocking it out, but learning and what can you do differently about it. And that's what's fascinating too about sports, is how they're using predictive analytics and AI and video to help you with these postmortems, to help you understand why. If it's visual, if they can have a coach that will help you figure that out. And I think that's some of the biggest things we can learn to apply. But for me, I learned, stick to sports, stay focused. Don't go down a rabbit hole of some bright, sparkly squirrel thing that you want to do. And so for me, I think that was the big aha moment for the whole thing. But yeah, you're dead on. You've got to figure out why.
So there are 2 parts to this that I absolutely love. The one is this idea of short-term memory. And when I was, as I said to you before, I've been going down the rabbit hole that is Ross Bernstein, and it's the most enjoyable one because I just don't want to stop. But this idea of a short-term memory, it's great because, and I'll draw two business analogies for this and the next point. One is business people they have short-term focuses, but maybe they don't have short-term memory. They're focused on quarterly earnings. They don't have a bigger, longer vision. You talk about having a short-term memory and a long-term memory. You need, I guess, the big long-term vision, and then this idea of short-term, which is just pick up your head, pick up the pieces and move on and move forward and stop lamenting and getting stuck on what could have been or might have been. So from a business perspective, how do you share that insight, this idea of a short-term memory, given the fact that these business executives are actually doing the something similar but completely wrong, which is they're focused on the play as opposed to the bigger picture?
Yeah. Well, I think we see it in sales a lot. Momentum is really a part of sales. You get one and it becomes contagious. You start booking gigs, you have better guests on your podcasts, whatever that might look like. And I think as you build confidence but we all get stung by hubris where we think, oh, it's because we're great. We don't figure out why. What are we doing right? Are we just getting lucky? So I think performing that little autopsy every time to say, what worked well, what didn't work well. I mean, I think some companies that have like performance reviews or, it's important to figure out that why, and especially too if you fail. But I think that having the short-term memory, I mean, especially in football, if you throw an interception, you can't dwell on it. You have to move on immediately. So I think that great, I talk a lot about Tom Brady when I talk about consistency and how he has 7 coaches he pays for. He spends like $1 million a year on private coaching, a neurologist to help him understand the science of peripheral vision and reflexes, a mental health coach, a sleep coach, Pilates reformer, yoga, plyometrics, cryotherapy coach, video coach, studying, analytics and using augmented reality. I mean, who'd have thunk that if you want to extend your career and be playing when you're 43 years old, this is the shit you got to do, right? The other stuff was just the price of admission. Now it's all this extra stuff. And when they fail, it's like, forget about it, move on. Or if you throw a touchdown, forget about it, move on. Don't get it. That's the thing with sports. I think the great coaches, it's managing these levels where you don't get too high and you don't get too low. You've got to be in this space. You can enjoy these moments, but that's why I love studying the outliers. Like Herb Brooks, who is what my favorite coach. He's the coach of the 1980 U.S. Olympic Miracle on Ice hockey team, and Herb was a reverse psychologist. So he understood that when people were playing well, they had more to give, and when they were down, you should back off. Most people, when we're not hitting our numbers in the sales team, we fire people, yell at them, we punish them. And when things are going good, we say, it ain't broke, don't fix it. Herb was the opposite. He was a reverse psychologist. So when his teams were playing well and they were dominating, he put the hammer down and he asked for more. He would punish them. He'd make them skate. He'd make them work because they knew they had more to give. And then conversely, when they were playing poorly and they were in a slump, he'd back off the gas. He'd send them out, he'd get them their own team bus, cancel a plane ride home. He'd tap a keg, buy a bunch of pizzas, and let them just let their hair down. And invariably, it would work itself out, and they would come back and they would recover much quicker from that slump. So that's the thing about sports. You've got to find slump busters. Sports people are very superstitious. You get in a sales slump. Now with Corona, it's like everyone's in a slump. How do you get out of it? Well, you got to grind. You got to stay busy. You got to get outside your comfort zone, take some risks, or you're just going to go deeper and deeper.
It strikes me that the key word when we think about momentum is this idea of move, just keep moving.
Yeah.
It doesn't matter whether it's good momentum or bad momentum, just keep moving.
Yeah.
Just keep yourself, it makes me think of, I know that sometimes this may not be 100% accurate, but they say a shark, right? A shark never stops moving. And when it does, it dies. It's dead. And so that's what I take away from that. Well, here is your stump the guest quote. on momentum, because that's what we're talking about. Momentum is the next day's starting pitcher. So do you know who said that? And the second thing is, what does that mean to you, the quote? Because I am still trying to figure it out.
Next day starting pitcher, man, I have no idea. I don't know if you're talking about cricket or if you're talking about baseball. So
I'm squarely talking about baseball. This was Earl Weaver.
Earl Weaver. Okay, the old Baltimore Orioles manager. Interesting. So yeah, he was a trip. He was a fascinating dude. Yeah, it's true, because baseball is 162 games. It goes on and on and on and on and on. And you've got big ups, big downs, winning streaks, losing streaks. You can't get too high, you can't get too low, and baseball is the quintessence of that. You've got to be able to, if you have a good day, big deal. It's a 4-game series. So yeah, momentum. It's that's the thing with baseball. Pitchers have to take 5 days off between games. So it's not like basketball where LeBron James can just carry you, or Michael Jordan can carry you every game. Baseball, it truly takes a team. You've got to have a deep rotation. You've got to have a whole staff of people that can bring it on any given night. So that's an interesting take by Earl.
It dawns on me that with a baseball season in the 100 over 100 games, that you are the baseball author or writer. When you look back on almost 50 books, apparently I read almost 50 books. The wisdom of intellect and insights, yours and all the subjects that you have interviewed, the body of work must be just breathtaking. Again, looking at the similarities and also the differences. And I think that leads to, a huge area and focus of yours, which is this idea of the code, the champion's code that incorporates so many of these books. I would love, in the time we have left, for you to talk about what is the code and why the code is so important.
Oh, well, thank you. So the Champions Code, it's my signature keynote, which you do as well. And for me, it's based on 2 best-selling series of books. So I've been a working member of the media for the past 20 years. So I've had access. I've been able to interview literally thousands of professional athletes and coaches over my career, and studying what it is that makes great ones great. If you could put that slide back up, please. I was going to walk through.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, thank you. So it's based on these 2 series of books. This top series, Raising Stanley, Raising Lombardi, that was all about what it took to hoist that trophy. I interviewed all these athletes that were all members of championship teams, and I could only specifically ask them, what was unique about that team? Tell me about the 85 Bears or the 91 Twins, and I was looking for patterns and metrics and analytics that were common. And, was there a defining moment? Tell me about the coach, about communication. Tell me about the chemistry. What was unique? And there were things that emerged that were really interesting. Now, the bottom series is called The Code, and this is about the unwritten, unspoken rules in sports. That we've got these rules, as you know, there's black and white rules, but mixed in between the black and white rules are shades of gray. They're called unspoken, unwritten rules, or codes. This is the arbitrage. And if you break these rules, there's consequences. In hockey, it leads to fighting. In baseball, it leads to getting drilled. In every sport, in rugby, if you're an Australian rugby fan, you know about John Hapawadi, who I'll let your listeners Google that one. But people do all sorts of sneaky, nefarious things to gain an edge. They cheat. And this guy was a notorious, had a signature move. I'll let people Google it. But everyone has a kind of a unique. So there's an honor code that polices the game. Okay, in hockey, the players don't wear face masks because you have to be held accountable. That book, The Hockey Code, got turned into a movie with an Academy Award-winning director because it's fascinating. No one really had talked about it before, but it's not about fighting. It's about what happens that leads to fighting. If you disrespect someone, if you cheat, if you take shortcuts, if you hit a guy from behind, this honor code says you must be held accountable and you might lose some teeth. We call that spitting chiclets in my business. And if you disrespect someone, you're going to get punched in the mouth, and you're going to learn a very valuable lesson about respect, about the golden rule, about playing the game with integrity. And that's what the Champions Code is. It's about winning with integrity. I mean, there's all sorts of ways to win. You could take steroids and win. You can cheat and do all kinds of dirty things. But the antithesis is what we saw yesterday at the U.S. Open: golf. Golf is the only sport based on doing things the right way. I love studying great golfers because you hear stories of golfers who will disqualify themselves for touching a loose impediment in the middle of the woods when no one saw it, like removing a leaf, and their ball rotated a millimeter, but no one else saw it, but they saw it. And that's what integrity is. It's doing the right thing even when no one's looking. So we see golfers all the time disqualify themselves for doing things no one even knew about. And that's the culture that you want within your organization. You want a culture where people are going to win the right way. They're not going to put decimal points there. They're not going to do stupid things. They're not going to take shortcuts for safety issues or engineering specs or #MeToo. They're not going to talk to her that way. And you want a culture where people see something, it's okay to say something. And that's what our country, everything needs to get back to, where we'll have more honesty, we'll have more respect, we'll have more winning the right way. It's not just about winning. It's not like Lance Armstrong or Bernie Madoff, go from hero to zero. It's about winning the right way. And that's what my program is. It's really all about.
It's a beautiful way to end today, because ultimately, when we think about rules, there are lots of quotes and there's lots of different ways to think about it. Rules were made to be broken. Are you a rule follower? When it comes to risk, we talk about you make the rules. Well, first of all, you follow the rules, or do you break the rules, or do you make your own rules? And I think your message is one that says, whatever you choose to do within, sometimes you might have to break a rule, but do it with honor, do it with respect, do it with integrity. As long as breaking the rule doesn't involve breaking the code. And that's how we should be operating on the field and off the field. And something Jamal said on Friday, Ross, was if you're selfish on the field, you're selfish off the field. The behavior that you exhibit on the field, good, bad, and ugly, mirrors life. And I think that's the ultimate message, right? Which is what happens on the sport, in the sports arena is mirrored in your personal life, is mirrored in your professional life. And it becomes a virtuous cycle or a vicious cycle, depending on how you play the game.
And in our world, Joseph, there's not a better compliment when, after a speaking engagement, when someone says, wow, you're really the same guy off stage that you are on stage. To have that true, authentic, not just a persona, but the same guy, in the pitch as well as outside the pitch.
Yeah, absolutely. And even you can still perform on the stage, but as long as you're true to yourself. And I feel like we got a sense to meet the true Ross Bernstein. You will probably meet Joey now in the after show, who feels your pain, by the way. And that's really what I love. Brent Favre. That was Will Ferrell, right?
Something About Mary. The movie Something About.
It was Ben Stiller, of course. Yeah. I mean, you must have what. I was close. But yes, absolutely. And Dean Allen had such a large question to ask you that you basically have been cut off. So Dean, come to the Zoom after show, and I'm sure Ross will answer the question for you. bit.ly/CoronaTV after show. Ross, it's been an absolute pleasure. I feel like the only regret from today is we didn't have another hour, because there's so many questions that I would ask you, but I'll maybe ask them in the Zoom after show. I know you're not huge on the socials, but how can people get hold of you? How can people find out how you can keynote on the 8th continent, which I guess will be Atlantis or the moon or something like that?
My website, rossbernstein.com is great, but I'm not here to pitch anything or promote anything. I'm not a big social guy, but I just want to end by saying, Joseph, it's great to connect with you. I'm proud to call you my new friend. Beers are on me when we do get to meet. Hopefully we'll both be keynoting a conference in somewhere warm and sunny and spectacular, but we definitely have to meet because we definitely connected. And appreciate you, and I'm now one of your biggest fans.
Well, the feeling is mutual. And I will tell you the final thing before we sign off is when I came to the US, I adopted the Minnesota Vikings as my team. I have no idea why. I think whether it was Cunningham or Carter or
brother.
It could have just been the purple. I liked the color purple at the time. But they still are my adopted team, and now I know why, because we were meant to meet, and hopefully we will go to a game together.
Spurs, we're struggling. We need each other.
You'll come with me to a Spurs game. I'll come with you to a Vikings game. It's a friendship made in heaven. Ross, thank you, and we'll continue the conversation in just a short while. Take care. Bye, everyone. See you tomorrow.
Thank you for watching Corona TV with your host, multiple author, and global keynote speaker, Joseph Jaffe. Corona TV is the show about hope, positivity, optimism, and if there's time left over, a little bit of marketing. The after show on Zoom starts right now at bit.ly/Corona TV After Show. If you like the show, tell a friend or two. Please subscribe to the show at CoronaTV.show. And if you want to get inside news, previews of upcoming guests, and much more, text Corona TV to 66866 or visit josephjaffe.com/subscribe to sign up for the show's newsletter.
And despite the best ministrations of your wife, you still look ugly.